Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting of the special meeting of the Urbana City Council to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Council members Ammons.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Hazen.
Here.
Jacobson.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Roberts. Wu.
Here.
Mayor Marlin.
Here. At this point, we'll take public input. Seeing no requests for public input, we'll move on to the agenda item for this meeting, which is City Council Mayor Priorities. This will be a structured discussion led by Bill Kreidner from the Aslan Consulting Group. Bill is also on faculty at the University of Illinois, and his tie to Urbana is that he was the Urbana arborist. Well, he succeeded Bruno Schilzeth as the Urbana arborist back in the 80s and early 90s, or just 80s?
Just the 80s. Mm-hmm.
So, long ties to Urbana. So I'm going to turn it over to Bill, and he'll give you an overview of the process that we'll be following tonight.
Thank you, and I'll make this a very quick overview. My tie to Urbana extends back about 63 years. I was born in Urbana, raised in Urbana. My father was a faculty member at the University of Illinois. I had to leave town, so I moved across Wright Street. I apologize for that. I grew up on Main Street, just down from downtown Urbana, so right next to the Landmark Apartments. If they're still called Landmark Apartments, I don't know if they are or are not. But yeah, the beautiful Busey Mansion was there before the apartments. And that's what I remember, is playing in the Busey Mansion yard and all that sort of thing. But thank you all for sitting for this process. My role, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later, is going to be process. You obviously are content. So just I hit the wrong button, Jason.
I can get it back.
Thank you. Oh, I see what I did. I just went to the. Thank you. All right. I'm afraid to hit the one I hit before. So let me do this. I will. Jason's working on it?
Right here, I'll go to the next one.
Maybe it's a battery. That's what I did. Well, I know what the next slide is. I just want to let you know that this is a two-step process. We'll have a session this evening that will last no later than 6:55, if I recall correctly. And so you can take a stretch break before the official meeting begins. And then the same will happen on the 19th. Tonight, really what I'm hoping for is to get some initial thoughts for you on priorities. And then we'll have some time after everybody has a chance to exhaust your thoughts on priority areas. We'll have then a chance for discussion and clarification. But the initial process of expressing your ideas is not really a time to discuss them. Everybody just is going to go through, and we're going to do that. Then, at the end of the session this evening, I'm going to ask you to select your top 5. And following that, I'm going to ask you to prioritize those top 5. You're going to provide those to me. I'm going to tally them for you. I will then present them back to you, and then you'll have, on the 19th, will give us a chance to go through them. Yes, sir.
So top 5 is great. What about the other 20 that we might have that are important to us?
Well, you'll have all of them on the board, right? I'm going to let you all argue out whether you're going to have 5 or 20. My recommendation to you is to, I'm imagining, even with the departments, as I see this row of folks over there, there are hundreds of priorities within each department. And these, as I'm viewing them, and you can correct me, again, I'm going to be process rather than content. And this may be getting into content. But as I see it, these are priorities in addition to the priorities that are within each department as within the city.
Right, but we also have, as councilmen, individual goals that we'd like to achieve that are not necessarily the top priority that perhaps the mayor or the council itself would pick.
I'm going to turn this over to a council member if there's any discussion on that, and then I have some thoughts, but I think I'm jumping into content here.
Yeah, the intent here is to get the some high-level citywide priorities where there's consensus among council members to focus on for the next few years, and then and that are achievable as well. And it's a different approach than we've taken in the past, at least my experience on the council, where we listed page after page of individual goals and projects, which is, you know, what you're more familiar with. But these would be some high-level priorities that we as a council agree on to pursue. And I shouldn't, the department heads are here to serve as resource folks to answer any questions or clarify things or to tell us if something is actually completely impossible. But otherwise, they're here as a resource for answering questions.
Does that answer, Dennis?
Well, I do know that we had a widespread range of goals in the past, but what was interesting was that we met almost all of them. And a lot of times, if you don't include a goal in a statement of intent, they don't get any attention at all. And so having even smaller goals listed in the document allows staff to pursue them. And if they're not listed, they're not considered important enough to pursue. So that's my question.
I would say we're going to have all the goals listed,
Okay.
and they'll be prioritized. You'll have your top 3 to 5, and typically what happens in this process, you'll have your top 3 to 5, and there'll be a significant point difference as you move down, and then it might be a second tier and a third tier. But the focus, as I understand it, will be really for the council members would be on these top 3 to 5.
Okay, I accept that.
Okay. So this is, and in front of each of you is an agenda, and on that agenda has the sort of the purpose of the planning session for this evening. Okay? So in addition to maintaining core municipal functions such as public infrastructure, public safety, neighborhood services, and economic development, that's the preface statement. This evening, we'd like you to provide thoughts on priorities for the coming 3 years. We're not looking 10 years out, as I understand it. We're looking at the next 3 years, okay? They may be building to 10 years out, but it's what we're looking to do immediately. Any questions with respect to that?
So I would like the council to be clear about what we mean about neighborhood services, and even to some degree, public safety. Let's make sure that we're clear that I know the initial thought is typically just fire and police, but I wonder if there's some thoughts around expanding that concept of public safety to employment, for instance, or something like that. But
The question from Mr. Ammons is, are we clear on what we mean by public safety?
neighborhood services.
And neighborhood services. Any council members want to venture into that territory, or do you think you have a pretty good understanding of it?
I guess if we define it before we start talking about the goal, then we'll all be on the same page, right?
Okay.
Sounds like we're talking about definitions.
Is that what you're asking?
Some parameters. For me, I think.
Why don't you volunteer a parameter, and then we'll go from there.
For instance, if we say that we are committed to the core values of public safety, making sure that our streets are safe, right? The sort of go-to answer to that is to make sure that we have police on our streets and our police department is adequately staffed. But for me, I think employment rates is extremely important to also address these issues of public safety, because when people are employed, they're less likely to be involved in these types of behaviors. So I just think that that needs to be expanded. So if we're going to talk about public safety, I'd like to know if we're talking about just police and fire, or are we talking about something broader than that?
My response with respect to process is, in the initial offering of thoughts and concepts. If you're not comfortable with the fact that employment would be part of that, I would offer that as a goal. That would be my response as, again, looking at process.
So when I think of the process in which you've laid out, these particular things, if I follow my logical thinking in this, is that we don't even need to really discuss these core values. We want to discuss things outside of those, right?
Correct.
So I'm saying I want to make sure I understand the core values before I start a discussion outside of them. Because as Mr. Roberts said, if you don't bring these things up now, then they won't be brought up later. So I want to make sure I bring them up now.
Well, another way to look at it would be if you want to broaden a definition of something like public safety, then that would be part of could be one of the overall priorities.
Or,
Okay.
And it seems to me that the broad goals will have subpoints. And we would have bullet points under a broad goal, and that could be inclusive of the things that individuals have concern about, and I would include that in subpoints.
Okay. So under neighborhood services, are we talking about things like social service funding? Is that what we're talking about, or are we talking about something more direct?
Well, an example of neighborhood services would be all the grant programs that we administer for housing and assistance and rehab and that sort of thing. Everything that community development does would be considered neighborhood services.
So the answer to the question of social services would be yes, that's a part of neighborhood services?
Some of them would be, yeah. Human services, I guess, would be another way to look at it. I mean, we have core services and core functions and responsibilities that absolutely we will continue to do with the excellence that we're doing them. But if there's ways to expand that or things you think should be added to it, that's where these priorities can come into play.
I just want to make sure we have
No,
a
I-
good working
and-
definition. And
what I would suggest, if there's any question that it wouldn't be part of the core services, that it be offered as a goal, that it be offered as an idea. Because
okay.
if you don't, then I agree with you, it would be lost, right? And so then this is an opportunity to offer all the ideas. Then there'll be a time for discussion of those ideas. And what I'll suggest in a little bit as we get to it is that it not be an argument back and forth, but that it be advocating for something. So it's not you advocating for something and then somebody else saying, well, I don't agree with that. It's you're making a case. Yes.
So if we're offering up goals or priorities, one that I'd like to offer up is the elimination of ethnic or racial discrimination in sale and rental of housing in Urbana.
Okay. Hold that one,
Yeah.
because I'm not there yet.
Oh, okay, I didn't know if I was jumping
Nope,
the gun or
nope.
not, so I apologize.
Nope, no, no reason to apologize. We're actually going through what the slides are, okay? But you're right on target.
Okay.
So this is what our goal is for this evening. You all have that in, maybe you don't have it in front of you. I thought you had the TV screens on in front of you.
We do. We do. They're here.
They're off.
They're off.
Yeah, the TV screen's not on.
Okay. Jason, the TV screens aren't on.
This one is.
It's just that one.
It's just that one.
We're watching MTV right now.
These two are off.
So this evening, what we're doing is we're going to offer up the thoughts, and I think that was a very good question. Let's make sure we cover those things. If there's any concern that something may not be considered a core service, absolutely offer it. And then it provides an opportunity for council members to discuss that. Okay? Then what happens is we're going to clarify those, and the clarification will come from the individual that offered it, and you'll be asking questions of clarification on that. Okay? Then we'll have an agreement, not on the priorities themselves, but do we all have a good sense of what all the priorities are? Okay? Then I'm going to give you some cards, and you're going to establish your own internal priorities, and then provide those to me, and then I'm going to collect those and do a point tally, and I'll let you know what those are. Okay? And then the second session we'll be discussing that element of it. So for me, any questions on that? I'm sorry, before I move along? Okay? Are both of these on now?
I restarted it, yeah.
Okay, great. Yes,
So what's the,
well done.
for these initial priority thoughts, are we talking about macro scale ideas? You know, for example, the very broad economic development, is that enough of a definition of a priority, or do we need to be more specific than that?
If that's a priority for you, I would recommend you offer it, and then an opportunity to clarify it as we move through. I mean, the council members may say to you, economic development is pretty broad. What elements of economic development are you referring to? Is there something that we can attach something more to have a priority for economic development? I think that's almost in your mission statement, I think.
Yeah, no, it is. I'm just
Okay,
trying to
okay.
gauge how specific you're asking. I mean, like Eric's thing is pretty specific. It's a pretty specific goal to what he's shooting for. Is that what we're going for? Something that specific, where we have a measurable deliverable right at the end of the thing that we're offering? Because the way we've always structured it before has been broad and then subset, as Dennis said, of deliverables, right? I guess, Diane, I'm asking you now.
The way I saw it, and the reason I thought we could structure it this way, is that if you think about page 1 of our former goals, there's 7 or 8 very, very broad city goals, and those are part of the core mission of the city. Those are the core functions of the city, so that really isn't going to change. Economic development is always going to be a very important part of what we do. Maintaining a fire department, maintaining, as Aaron pointed out, public safety, that sort of thing. So what this is getting at is if you could take a subset of that if you wanted to, and talk about a priority within one of those broad areas.
So more specific
Yeah, more specific.
might be better.
So I'm going to ask a question of clarification for me. So when you say more specific, when it comes to economic development, what might something like that be? That'll help. This will help me as we're going through.
You want an example then?
Yes, an example. Go ahead.
That's one of my interests.
Okay.
So I've got 4 goals, and they all have subsets.
Okay.
So economic revitalization of downtown Urbana. That's one of my goals.
Okay.
4 points. Promote Main Street retail growth.
Okay. Stop right there. Because what I want to do is find out from the group: are we thinking the higher goal of your first major point, right? And then you're breaking it, downtown revitalization, and then you're breaking it down into individual pieces.
That's correct.
Yes. In my mind, what would be more helpful, but I could be wrong here, and this is what would help me, would be the second point. You would offer that second point, rather than
Promote
downtown
Main Street
revitalization, because downtown revitalization covers a pretty broad area. But
you need a broad approach to achieve it, and you can't, if we're just picking ultimately 5 things to achieve, we're going to miss the other 4 that could have made a big difference in the revitalization of downtown Urbana.
And my only challenge, and it's not to you, and I'd actually like to involve more folks, my challenge would be, is that handled at the department level when you think about downtown revitalization? Do we miss downtown revitalization if it's not a major priority?
No,
And I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. That's why I'm asking.
What the council comes up with priorities are not exclusive of everything else. They're a guide to the staff. They also inform our budget and strategic. We're also going to I want to do strategic planning for the city further down the line, so they'll also help inform that. So if it's not on the paper here, doesn't mean we won't do it. This is just reflecting of some of the things that the council feels are top priorities.
So I'm going to, Jared, is that helping define a little bit more what your initial question was? And then I'm going to go back to you, Dennis, and say, is this responding to a concern that you have?
Jared, you're first.
Yeah.
It sounds like the subset, Dennis, is what we're looking for.
Okay.
We got a we got to pick priorities, right?
And as I understand it, these are things that are in addition to what is already a priority within the city of Urbana. That's what I'm hearing right now, correct?
Yeah.
I'm looking to you all.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
but I still
Okay.
think that just picking one subset and making it, number 2 or number 4 on our list misses the other 3 that potentially would be really important to achieve the overall goal of economic development.
And I'm going to respond. Again, I'm seeking clarification here because this helps me. And by the way, typically in a process, it's a kind of a 3-step thing, and this is typically the harder part of the concept in order to get our minds together. I call it storming, norming, conforming. So right now we're kind of storming. We are figuring out the process, and then we're going to go through it as we handle it. So my response would be, and I don't know if this is accurate, so I'm going to look to you, and Mayor, I'm looking to you more because you've been participating, but certainly don't want to eliminate other folks, is downtown revitalization isn't lost if it's not listed as a major goal.
That's a core, ongoing focus of the city.
Okay.
Yes.
So Dennis, that's what I'm parsing that out because I think it's important as we go through this that I don't want to say agree, but that we have an understanding that that's what's happening here.
And it's reflected by the nature, that's where our TIF districts, our enterprise zone, I mean, everything we have in place, indicates that is an overall city core function. So if there are specific things under that, that's the kind of ideas I think that need to be.
Yeah, and
thrown out.
what I would recommend, and this is just a thought that hit me right now, and you guys can say, no, we don't want to do that, is I would hit your subpoint and put a little parens after it, economic, or downtown revitalization. I mean, if you want to identify an area where it is in the downtown as opposed to your subpoint, maybe that happens on the Philo corridor, or maybe it happens on University Avenue. If you're defining the downtown, maybe that's how it's defined, as opposed to downtown revitalization being the larger point. Does that work for folks? I'm asking again because this is the process I'm going to adhere to as we move along.
Well, it seems to me that we ought to be looking now at things that are not part of the core that we've already defined, at things that we hadn't really thought of before, and see if they are worth elevating to priorities going forward.
Agreement? Understanding? I'll put it that way as opposed to agreement.
I guess I'd also say that if there's some piece of what one of our current goals is that we think we need to focus more on, like Aaron was mentioning workforce development or reducing unemployment, that would be maybe a part of public safety in his mind, but in our mind it's maybe not necessarily something we've done much with, so I think that would be a legitimate goal.
Okay.
So I think it could be part of what we're already doing, but just not a current focus.
I like that, and I think at least I'm getting to a place where I'm able to structure it by saying if it's workforce development, and we put in parens after it, public safety, if that's something that is of concern and of importance to the council. Okay? Does that make sense to folks? It doesn't have to happen that way, but that's one way to address it and make sure, Aaron, that isn't lost in that sense. Okay? So I asked for just a few understandings. One is phones are off or on silent. Limit side conversations. You guys have been great about that. It's kind of hard with microphones in front of you to have side conversations, I understand. If we can keep our statements concise, that helps us get through things. Focus on the topic at hand. If someone offers a thought and you're not quite sure what they mean, please feel free to ask a question of clarification, not challenge the thought. Okay? So we can get all the thoughts on paper first. Be informal and interactive. I think we've been that already, as informal as you can be in a formal setting. And actively listen, seek to clarify. That's what I had just talked about. Second round, we'll be going over this the next time, but I also don't want you to be surprised in the second round. That's why I'm talking about it now. We're going to explore the priority statements. allow initial presenter to adjust if they'd like to, and, you know, come to, again, the mayor mentioned zone of agreement, some level of consensus. It may not be everybody's fully comfortable with something, but we're comfortable enough. And that's what I would call a zone of agreement. And we continue to seek to build a common understanding as we've been doing here. Hopefully that's modeling it a little bit for us. And then I would ask that we agree on a top set of priorities. Certainly not, and Dennis, getting back to your point, not losing the other priorities, but at least that would be a primary focus. Let's make sure we hit our top priorities first. So my role is really process, clarifying, redirect if I can't answer, which I've done a couple different times already. Paraphrase, and I'm not going to interpret what you're saying. I'm going to try to paraphrase what you say. If I misparaphrase, correct me, okay? Because it's not my thought, it's yours. And then summarize. My goal is to, whatever your initial thoughts are, I'm going to try to get them on a single or 2 lines on this size of paper here, okay? And I'm going to ask a favor of you, and then I'm going to ask that, I'm going to flip it as well, is that you let me interject if I believe we're off track, if I think, gosh, Dennis said something, and then Eric, you're all of a sudden talking about something totally unrelated. I'm going to say, could we, you know, Eric, allow me to interject, please. I'd like to get back to what Dennis was talking about. And I also like the ability to summarize a statement. And then the person that presented the idea has an opportunity to say to me, no, that's not what I was saying. Okay? I'm fine. Is that okay with folks? Thank you.
Yes.
Mhm. Yes.
So your role, inquire when you have a question. And you've modeled that well already. That's good. Seek to clarify, to make sure we understand where everybody is. Work toward that zone of agreement that I mentioned. And let me know if you think I'm on the wrong track, okay? Or I'm moving in the wrong direction, or not understanding or summarizing. I have no problem with being interrupted, so please do that. This is your planning process, not mine, okay? My job is really to help with the process itself, not the content. Any questions? Additional questions? All right. Here we go. So what I'm going to do with the round robin, it's going to be a round robin, but I'm going to ask somebody to volunteer one first, and then we're going to go through, and then the last person will participate first the next time, and I'll just do a reverse direction. And that way the person that participates 8th is not the person that participates 8th each time. I know it's not pure. I'm not going to go... it's easier for me to reverse directions. Is that okay with folks?
Just fine.
Fine.
Okay, super. Let me make sure I got everything here. I'm pretty sure I did. All right. So, who would like to offer an initial priority?
I think Eric does.
I'll repeat what I said.
Thank you.
So I propose that it be a priority for the city to eliminate discrimination on ethnic or racial grounds in the sale or rental of housing in Urbana.
On racial or ethnic?
Yeah.
And by the way, I can't spell when I'm writing really fast, and I always just tell people geniuses can't spell. And so forgive me for misspelling as in advance of me doing that. Any discussion on that with folks? Do you need any clarification? And it has to do with rental housing, but
Rental and sale. Rental and sale.
just housing in general then?
Yeah.
Okay. Did I capture it okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Except you said ethnic instead of ethnic. And mostly the spelling doesn't matter, but in this particular case.
Okay, it does. You're right.
Go ahead.
No, I didn't. It says ethnic. Just as I turned around to say it, that's when I turned around to say it. Okay, no questions of clarification, then I'm,
No,
if,
there could be, but I don't know how deep you want to get into that at this point.
I want to make sure I capture it first,
Okay.
and then after we get them all down, we're going to revisit. Go ahead, Aaron.
Let's see, minority hiring and participation. So the hiring would be in relationship to the city, and the participation is in relationship to contracts.
I think I captured that all right.
Yes.
Okay. Diane.
I will actually build on what Aaron just said, and mine was inclusive procurement, which would be expanding our procurement policy to promote greater inclusion of women and minority business enterprises, and also look into preference for local vendors. So,
I'm going to ask a question to the group. Is this one goal or two?
I think it's the same goal.
Okay. Anybody else think it might be? I'm asking because I'm not sure. But if you guys are comfortable with it being one, then I'm comfortable with it being one. Okay. Bill.
Guess I'll go with improve biking and walking connectivity.
Okay. Okay. Dennis.
All right. I have a couple, and maybe one's rather similar to what Bill just said, but promote Urbana as a community destination. Community meaning the larger community, Champaign and the University of Illinois.
Destination, you said at the end?
Yes.
Thank you. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how to just capture it. Promote Urbana as a community. It's Champaign-Urbana, U of I? Destination, thank you. Thanks. Does that do it?
Do I only get one? Okay, just-
One for now.
For now,
We're
okay.
going to run through them until you have no more.
Okay, 'cause I have a couple that are important to me. The first one I'll put out there is I would like us to be more welcoming to businesses, regardless of our politics. I can speak from personal experience that I think we tend to promote certain businesses and push away other businesses. I'd like us to be inclusive for everybody, regardless of our politics. And that's not a slight on any individual here.
Okay.
It's just a culture here that I would like to see improved upon so that we get more business in general,
Okay.
which will circle back around to a better labor force and more job opportunities.
So you defined welcoming in a way of regardless of political affiliation. Would it go beyond that? So when you're saying be more welcoming to business, is that adequate? Is what I'm asking. Is this adequate as a goal?
Well, to be more welcoming to them equally. I think it depends on what you're bringing to this community as far as the welcome that you would get with a business.
Okay. As long as all the council members are clear with that, I'm fine with that as well then. As long as this captures what you're saying?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Jared.
Add a electric or supercharging electric station for electric vehicles.
was trying to get everybody's comments on one page. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it.
I can make mine brief.
No.
Investment in older housing stock and re-envisioning, repurposing older housing stock.
So I'm going to say invest and repurpose older housing stock?
Yes.
Okay, so I captured it okay? Sorry. See, I'm going back to you now.
Trying to figure out how to phrase this.
You can pass, and I can come back, but
Well, maybe you guys can help me phrase this correctly. So I'm thinking about us being, not having enough time because of the ash borer disease in the trees, and kind of getting back on top of the tree stock in the city, and making sure that we are keeping those pruned and cut and replenished. I don't know what the phrase is. That's what I'm looking for. So if anybody can help me out with that.
Dennis.
Are you trying to say that you want to maintain the health of our
Forest.
urban forest?
There we go, urban forest. Thank you, thank you.
All right. Jared.
Promote youth employment or paths to employment for youth, especially at-risk youth.
We're at risk. Is that all right?
Sounds good.
Okay. Dean.
I would like to see us invest more heavily into our social services. And I don't know how specific to get on that, but one thing that comes to mind for me as a priority is some type of a detox center.
So invest more heavily, or invest in, probably, unless, is there some investment already going into a detox center?
No, and
Okay.
our investment in social services is pretty minimal.
So I'm going to ask the group then, is invest more heavily in social services? Would that be a goal, or would you like it to be more specific, like the detox center? I mean, that's what Dean is offering. He's offering general and specific.
So personally, I would say I would prioritize the detox center in particular because this is just a crying need in the community.
That's
And-
fine.
and-
We
and
can.
we do have, we are addressing, perhaps inadequately, but significantly, we are addressing social service funding. But detox is just, that's
That is a screaming priority.
the screaming priority.
Could I just suggest maybe invest more heavily into our social services, starting with a detox center?
Good way to put it, Charlie.
I'm typing it as we
I
go.
was going to say, you want to come up here and write? No.
I'm typing them as we go. You can't read my writing, so.
You can't read mine either, evidently. Starting with, oh, gosh, in social services. Sorry. Starting with. Okay. Dennis.
I'd like to see us build stronger connections and intercooperative projects with the University of Illinois.
Build stronger UI connections and collaborations. You say cooperation, but
Collaborations is fine.
okay. Bill.
I'll say complete a facility study, and it might tie into updating the downtown plan. Is that two different goals?
I could borrow from Charlie, since that was accepted, beginning with the downtown plan?
I'm not sure which comes first, but
Oh, okay. Then it didn't work.
I'll just say facility study. Maybe somebody else will come up with downtown plan.
Okay.
The RFP is going out for the facility study soon, within the next couple of weeks, so that's a good thing, yeah. A major goal for me is to plan for the transformation of the Lincoln Square site into a vibrant destination.
Okay. Aaron?
Citizen participation in the budgeting process. There's I'm trying to think of the name of it, but it's something I have been looking up for a while and looking into, but it would require, so I'll do this. I'll say that more outreach for the purpose of civic engagement from the council, and one of those bullet points would be the citizenship participation in the budgeting process.
More public outreach.
Can I add in something? Actually, I really enjoyed the community event that we had last month, and I
That's
would
what I
just
mean.
like to see that broader.
Yeah.
So community involvement and us taking, if we're going to go to the community for Lincoln Square, but these kind of pressing topics that have something more on a regular level, I think would be great. So
So
starting with.
So help me here.
So that process, to me, looks like we're doing something like what we just did at the Civic Center, getting a lot of feedback from the community. We would love for the chambers to be filled, but we see that that's not going to always be the case. So if we have those types of events, it's great to get the information out, but I'm also saying that we should try to almost recruit people, citizens, to be more involved in like our budgeting process and things like that, to come and offer their
So
input.
I'm going to say actively engage, because you use the word recruit. So actively engage citizens in municipal budget process or budgeting process, or are you specific? You want to be specific about the budget? Is that?
I want to be broad and specific. So,
Can help.
Here's another one of those starting with opportunities.
I'm going to leave that. I was going to say that, but I struck out on the last one that I tried. Is it starting with the budgeting process, or I don't think it is with you. I think you just, from what I'm
what
hearing.
it's starting with is the outreach, the type of events that we do out in the community more. And I would say the caveat is that we would get more participation, but I do want specifically, I want citizens to come in and be involved in the budgeting process.
So give me the bigger picture first. You want them to be involved
The
in?
bigger picture is that the Urbana City Council does events in the community surrounding important topics. One of the objectives I hope to come out of that, or one of the things I hope to see come out of that, is specifically is that citizens come and participate in the budgeting process for the city.
Could I just suggest adding creatively engage? I think one of the successful things that happened there was we had this breakouts in small groups and the report back and stuff like that, so it has to be a little bit more than just somebody standing up in front of a room.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Okay. Did I capture that, Aaron? I'm not sure I
think so.
did. Okay. Eric,
So I would propose accelerating Urbana's path towards zero net carbon footprint. And I guess I'd like to add a footnote to that, which would apply to a few of these, which is where there's something that's going to cost some money, that we seek to partner with other governments, for example, City of Champaign or Champaign County. So, for example, the Detox Center almost would require that. If we had a plan and a program to eliminate housing discrimination, it would be fantastic if we could partner with Champaign in doing that. So I'd like, us to think about with all of these, think about where that's appropriate, where we can be cooperative. In some cases, we're going to be competitive, like developing Lincoln Square.
Mhm.
But others, we should perhaps seek cooperation.
So
Okay.
could I ask you to just put under that piece for me, in parentheses, if you would put students?
Here?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Are we capturing them so far? We've been around twice now, right? Okay. Let's see, I'm going to go to you, but this will be 3 for you, won't it? You're just getting lucky. Okay, go ahead.
Review and retool our vision for campus to downtown.
Vision for downtown?
Campus to downtown.
Campus to downtown. We're just, I think, going through twice, so I'm just going to go the same direction here now. Go ahead, Jared.
Create a multi-use path from the Carl campus to downtown Urbana. It probably falls under Bill's with connectivity, just more specific.
Okay. All right. Keep forming your thoughts. I'll see if this sticks this time. Okay, Dean.
I would like to see us make Southeast Urbana more of a priority regarding economic development, specifically the South Philo Road business area. We spend a lot of time talking about downtown and other TIFs, but it seems to me like we could put more attention there.
And you said specifically along a
Philo
Philo
Road.
corridor?
Philo, yes.
Philo Road Business District.
A lot of potential down there.
Okay. Dennis.
Okay. I'd like to see the completion of the beautification of Urbana's main gateway corridors.
Bill.
I guess budget, or this is 3 years, right? So I'll just say Boneyard Phase 2, is it, with the Founders Park area? Is that Phase 2? Whatever phase that is.
Yeah, Phase 1.
That's Phase 1.
All Phase 1.
We did Phase 2 first.
We did Phase 3 first.
3 first. So we
Boneyard Phase 2?
I think 1.
One.
How about just say Boneyard Founders Park? We'll figure it out.
Remaining phase.
Diane.
This is back to connectivity. I want to expand the connectivity with the Kickapoo Rail Trail from its terminus on High Cross Road west through the city of Urbana, specifically focusing on a downtown segment between Vine Street and Lincoln Avenue. That would connect the U of I campus, Carl Hospital campus, Crystal Lake Park, and downtown.
Focus on Vine to...
Between Vine and Lincoln, yes. And it's all about connectivity with important nodes in our community.
Okay.
Equity in the traffic stops. And a Golden Corral on Cunningham off of I-74.
Impossible.
There's a story there. I don't know what Golden Corral is, but, oh, I do know a restaurant?
Yes.
Buffet restaurant.
Buffet
Buffet
restaurant.
restaurant.
Just want to make sure all of my constituents out there in Ward 3 are listening. Mr. Johnson, everybody, Golden Corral.
Wait, you got to put that on there. Right?
Would you like me to add
Oh,
it?
yes, I would.
Okay. They seem, maybe they are the same, but they seem a bit different to me. On what, where did you want it? Where did you say, you had a specific area for it?
Yeah, on Cunningham, in
Okay.
North Cunningham off of I-74.
All right.
Work with other government agencies as feasible and necessary to reduce the disparate economic impact of fines and court costs on lower income people. So the background is that there's a tremendously disparate impact on lower income people with respect to fines and court costs. That's not completely under our control. In fact, mostly it's not under our control. We reduced the marijuana fine, but other things are not under our control. But we should engage both county and state officials and on behalf of our constituents who are affected by this.
So you said reduce the disparate...
Disparate, D-I-S-P-A-R-A-T,
thank you. Thank you.
disparate economic impact of fines and court costs on lower income people.
I got you. Okay.
Oh, yeah, court costs. The court costs are killers, actually. Yes.
Okay.
Morning, yeah, I'm on number 5, right? So how many times are we going around?
Until you have no more.
Until you
No,
have-
this is my 5th one.
This is your fourth.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All right.
I'm happy, you're welcome to skip, and if you skip, that doesn't mean you don't ever, you're not asked again. It's just when we come around again, you're asked that time. So if
I'd
you-
like for us to assess and improve our community relations with city offices. We focus a lot on the police department, but I'd also like to understand if we have other areas within the city that we can improve our community relations.
Say that again, please. Sorry.
I'd like to assess and improve community relations with city offices in
Okay.
general.
There are a few themes that I'm beginning to hear through this, but Jared.
Provide greater incentives for small business owners.
Did you say small or just business owner?
Small business owners.
Yep, I thought so. That's why I left the space. Okay. Dean.
I think I'm good, sir.
All right. Dennis.
I'd like to see the completion of a design overlay proposal for the downtown generally, so that future construction can be compatible with existing historic buildings.
So see completion of downtown
Design overlay district.
design overlay. Okay, I missed design, sorry.
Yeah, we proposed that. It was proposed as a topic of development, and I think
Okay.
community development had already actually worked on it a little bit, but we never did see it.
Okay, okay. Bill?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and say update the downtown plan. I know that'll probably be like in year 3 or something because there's a lot of moving parts, but between the proposed MTD thing, the Black North, potential reuse of the jail, there's a lot of stuff that might happen over the next couple of years, and I don't think we have a specific update plan for the downtown plan.
And that's different than this,
Yeah.
correct?
That's
Okay.
a little different.
Dan?
Work with other units of government, agencies, and organizations to address the need for transitional housing for women and families. This is, state and federal funding is disappearing for this particular use. So affordable housing for women and families, transitional affordable
You
housing.
began by saying work with.
Other agents, we
Yeah,
can't do it
okay.
alone. This
Yep.
is one of those things you can't do alone, so.
Affordable housing,
Transitional, yeah. Transitional affordable housing.
gotcha.
Transitional housing.
I shouldn't have done this. All right. Let me get to you. Why don't you go ahead and start, Aaron?
So this last one for me would be a final resolution to the sewer lateral problem that we have.
And I trust all the council members know what that is.
Oh, they do.
Okay. I don't, but that's not important. Eric?
I think I'm tapped out.
Okay. All right, we've passed. Jared, have you got anything? Or does it, I'll just open it up. Does anybody else have other items? I'm going to go Dennis and then Bill. Okay, Dennis?
Again, this wasn't one of my most important ones, but I want to see, I want to promote visitor and tourism to the downtown as a point of interest.
As point of interest, okay? Bill?
We may already be doing this, but there hasn't been really any council involvement I know of. Working with the U of I on various things. I know they just completed their master plan, and Orchard Downs is scheduled to be expanded with some of the other housing that was on South First Street. They're talking about public-private partnerships and things like that. And then we have the Carl Medical Center building being proposed, and some of the things that they've kind of worked out through their master planning process will hopefully involve the city. So I guess increased council involvement with U of I projects, would that summarize it?
Specifically U of I projects?
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
Okay. I'm just,
some of the other stuff is covered.
yeah, we've talked about the corridor, and, yeah, okay.
Nope.
Jared?
Golden Corral.
What's that?
Golden Corral.
Want it separate? Okay. Dennis?
And this kind of piggybacks one of the Diane Marlin's comments about connectivity from Lincoln, the campus to Lincoln to downtown. project we've already put some energy into is the creation of a multi-use path along the Boneyard Creek from downtown to the campus.
You said multi-use path or just path?
Multi-use path.
Multi-use path. Just so you know, I used to play in the Boneyard underneath, right where Thornburn School used to be. You know, that was a great place to play along Boneyard from downtown to campus. All right. Bill.
Continue to recruit Champaign surplus. Just kidding.
That was going to be news. Yes.
I'll go one more. We haven't really talked about the arts specifically, and I would like us to support and continue to search for funding for arts installations of a permanent nature in our parks and in our along our roadways in our community. I know that a lot of our public arts grants go to what do they call it? Ephemerate? What's the
Ephemeral?
word?
Yeah.
Ephemeral
Yeah.
events. I'd like to see an equal amount of time set aside for permanent installations that enhance the community.
Okay. Others? Going once, going twice, gone. Okay, thank you. Oh, I saw you reach for the mic, Dennis.
I just am thinking that there's probably a few really important goals that we missed that the listening audience wished we had on that, and so I would suggest we have Project X, the unnamed project that we have yet to hear from or hear about from our constituents.
We did ask at the beginning of the session for comment, but they may not have known what the comment was about, of course. Okay, so what I'd like to do is run through these quickly. Sorry, 25 minutes, okay. Is this terrible to look down at these here? No? Okay. Can everyone see them? If not, that's why I have two boards. I was going to just put two up and we can go through, and then I'll put two other ones up. Would you prefer that, to have them up higher? You okay?
I'm fine.
All right.
That's fine.
Who brought up the first one here? Eliminate discrimination on racial or ethnical grounds for housing.
I did.
Okay. Does this cover it well enough?
It does. Is this a time to elaborate or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's time to advocate and
Okay,
to
sure.
seek clarification with the group here.
So this is I distributed, but probably not in time for folks to really look at it much, a report from HUD where they did a nationwide survey using checkers, which is really the only way that you can. And it was clear that over 2/3 of the time, Hispanic people or African American people were not shown the same choices by either real estate agents, or they were often told if they went for rental housing that there was nothing available and so forth. So it would be wonderful if that were not true in Urbana, but since we're not checking, we don't know. And my guess is that, and I think that, I spent a tremendous amount of time on traffic stop equity, and that is important. But the bottom line there is that whether you're African American or European American, on the average, if you're driving in Urbana, you get stopped once every few years. Maybe it's a few more years if you're European American, but if you are stuck in housing, that because of limited housing choices, if you or your family are in housing, that's 365 days every year, and has tremendous ripple effect on all sorts of problems. So I think that we ought to look at whether this is the case in Urbana. I think we ought to seek to partner with Champaign, if they'd be willing to do so, because if we can, a program to work on this would have 3 times the impact if it was Champaign and Urbana, as if it were just Urbana. And I think it is worthy of a really high priority for all aspects of the health of our community, economic, social, economic and social.
Questions of clarification for Eric on this? No? Okay. So what I've done is when you fill out your cards in about 15 minutes, you're going to write, if this is one of your priorities, you would put a 1 next to it, okay? And write on the card, you can write the whole thing if you'd like to, but I'm trying to make it shorter for you. Just if you put eliminate discrimination for housing, I'll know what that means, okay? We'll have all these printed out in full, but this is just making it easier for when you determine priorities. Okay, minority hiring and minority hiring city in the city and participation with contracts. Aaron, we went this way, didn't we? Okay.
What would you like?
If you don't feel it needs any clarification, then, and if you don't feel you need to advocate for it in any.
So, to be clear, then the minority hiring within the city is all the departments making sure that that our departments reflect the demographics and the spirit and values of Urbana as it relates to diversity in all the departments. And for contracts, much the same, that we have minority participation goals that we set in relationship to all of our contracts, anything that we contract out. And to be as clear as possible, I mean they're from purchasing of paper clips to post-construction.
Okay. Questions? Clarification? Diane? This one is inclusive procurement and preference to local vendors.
It's along the same lines. The city spent 2.5 years rewriting the purchasing policy for the city, so this would expand provisions of that and build on the current policy for inclusive procurements, specifically for minority and women-owned businesses.
Okay. You said it's along the same line, but it's different enough that it should be separated.
Well, it's expanding what we have. It would be expanding what we have.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is if you think it's similar enough, the opportunity for it to be selected in the top 5 is higher if you combine.
You could combine it with, it
doesn't need to
really
be.
does combine with number 2. So
I'm asking if you'd like it to, well, the two of you, if you'd like it to be combined together, then that's fine, and I'll just make it a number 2.
We need to caucus.
Well, then
we did it. It's combined.
What if you just added minority procurement, hiring, and participation? Add that word to it.
I think we just have it in the minority
Okay.
caucus.
Okay. So this one's out. Okay.
Now,
And-
we don't need, at a later point, we will get into more specifics on these
Yes,
topics.
yes. It'll be the next meeting on the 19th. Improve biking and walking connectivity.
Yeah, I'd like to combine mine with the Carlota campus pathway because we're doing a lot of work on that already. The Carlota campus, I think, is the main thing, and then there are a couple of choke points that I was thinking about where
Okay.
from specific neighborhoods to shopping areas. But I think that Carlota campus pathway is probably the most important.
Yeah, I would agree that all those could be rolled into.
I'm also
Carlton
going to ask
campus.
about the campus one.
And the KRT one.
Is it becoming too big? I mean, that's where we started with you earlier today, Dennis, and I want to be careful that I'm not making it too big, but that's when I said I think I'm hearing a theme. I was hearing some things that were very similar, but they might have been in different points.
Mine is within Diane's.
Okay.
But that goal, that specific, mine was Carl to downtown. Hers includes that.
Okay.
So mine is included in there.
So tell me which one we're gonna move to, because I don't see it right now. The Carl.
The bottom there, create
This one right
multi-use
here?
path, yeah.
Review and retool campus to downtown. No, create multi-use path from Carl to downtown.
Top of the third page, I think.
Thank you.
Actually.
Make Southeast Urbana economic. No. Sorry. hang
Oh.
on.
No, the one I was thinking of was bottom of the
This is
second
why I like
page.
them up higher. Because I can see them then too.
Where's the one that says find a? I think it's
Expand.
fourth down on the third.
Expand connectivity of rail trail.
Yep.
All right.
That connects everything that was discussed.
Yeah, so this is 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, and that also then, I would say, included continuation of development of multi-use path from downtown to campus along the Boneyard Creek.
It includes it, you said?
I think that, yeah, I think all these connectivity paths become a theme.
Okay, so when I get to it, tell me that. Because rather than spend our time looking for it, we'll just, when we get to it, we'll know. Promote Urbana as a community destination, including Champaign-Urbana and U of I. I think that was
mine,
Dennis.
Yeah. Yeah. We've often talked about bringing students into the downtown. We need to have methods and programs that attract not only individuals at the university, students who perhaps almost never come to the downtown because they find plenty of options right there in campus town, midtown, but also to bring members of the community from Champaign to our community as well.
Okay.
And there's like 7 points I could mention that would probably facilitate that, but that's the overall one.
Okay. Okay. Any questions? I'm just going to ask you when they complete, rather than me saying any questions. If I don't hear a question, I'm going to the next one then. Okay? Dean. Be more welcoming to businesses.
You need more specifics on it?
I don't need it. If you think it, if,
Oh,
yeah, you have the opportunity to provide more clarification if you'd like, or
let
advocate for it.
me see here, I kind of lost my train of thought there, but this is all kind of like one big thought for me. You know, if we're gonna improve social services, we need more funding. The state's sure not going to do it. If we're going to improve funding, we need more business. So we need to be welcoming to everybody and try to promote business in here. I myself tried to bring a business to this community several years ago and found it very difficult because of the nature of the business. And at that point, I realized there was a certain culture here, that we want to promote certain kinds of businesses, and if that's not within our thinking, then we're not going to go out of our way for it. I went to another community and offered this business up and was treated completely differently. So I have, very strong thoughts about that. But in the end, my motive is to increase our tax base, so therefore we can increase our social services. The state is not going to help us with that.
Okay.
The truth.
Very good. Jared, add supercharge station for electric vehicles.
Yeah, I know everybody heard our proposal from Scott Green and some of the other students on campus about advocating for electric vehicle use. And I think when I look at other cities, or especially around the Midwest, that are attracting young tech industries, entrepreneurs, those kinds of folks, that kind of technological infrastructure is something that those places make available. And if we want to change the nature of how we're trying to attract business here, having things like that I think is important, and also helps us achieve multiple goals. It hits a lot of targets all in one. Reduces carbon use, promotes more friendly transportation, environmentally friendly transportation and is attractive to the kinds of folks that we're trying to attract to open up businesses here in town.
Okay. Mary Alice, you had two. Invest and repurpose older housing stock.
Yes, so I think that you're all aware that there's a lot of new, there's a lot of new housing going up all over the place, and I think that a lot of the older housing is falling into disrepair. There's not a lot of incentive anymore to keep it up because people feel like they can tear them down and build new apartment buildings. So I feel like we need to come up with a plan, a game plan on how we can encourage people to maintain their houses and provide good quality housing for people. I know that there's some conversation about sororities leaving some of the older homes. What are we going to be doing with those homes? We need to have a strategy.
Okay. Urban forestry, anything to advocate, or do you think it's well understood?
I hope it's well understood.
Okay.
You can tell me if it's not.
All right. Promote paths to employment for at-risk youth.
Jared.
I thought it was Jared. Promote paths to employment for at-risk youth. Any
I was just touching on something Aaron and I have talked about a lot, and have the problem with having people getting in trouble is that they don't have anything better to do with their time, or their economic opportunities are extraordinarily limited, and you got to do what you got to do to survive. And I don't think the city, I don't know what the city's role really necessarily could be. This is definitely something that would need to be fleshed out, but from what I've seen in our goals, it's been something that the city has had as a goal, but rarely have I heard of or seen a program that went towards affecting it, but there have been some. But I think it deserves focus, and if you build everyone from your weakest link up, it strengthens the entire community. So just a refocus, just a chance to reevaluate what we're doing and how we can do it better.
Okay. The invest more heavily in social services, starting with the detox center.
Yes. Again, that obviously comes down to funding. In any of our lifetimes, we're not going to see that kind of funding from the state, in my opinion. So we're going to have to get very creative for it. If we're going to have funding, we're going to need more business.
Okay.
So that's why I want to, well, that's not the only reason why, but it's one of the,
Sure.
one of the main motives here is to be more welcoming to business, to get them in
Okay.
here.
Okay. Dennis, you had build stronger U of I connections and collaborations.
Right, and it's partly to bring activities from the U of I campus into our downtown more often. We're kind of competing in some respects with the rise of hotels in the Champaign and the development of the technology centers, and it would be nice to have not only collaborations with faculty, but also have facilities that draw university collaboration more to the downtown.
I added facilities on to your comment there. That was something I didn't have. Okay, complete a facility study. Bill? Anything
Sounds
you'd
like
like-
we can take that off. It's there's an RFP going out next week.
Okay. Diane, plan for Lincoln Square site transformation into a destination. Anything to advocate with respect to that?
No, we're getting that underway, and it would tie in with what Dennis has been talking about.
Okay.
And it also could tie in for housing and retail and commercial development as well, so.
Okay. I'm not going to combine it with anything, though.
Okay.
I'm asking that. I'm not saying that.
Oh.
I want to make sure. Okay, it's separate. Engage public in Urbana information, creatively engage public in Urbana information gathering process, specifically starting with the budget and bringing students into the process as well. Anything to advocate with respect to that?
We've touched on some things as council about more student and youth engagement around the various different boards and commissions in city council, so I think it's pretty clear.
Okay. We've got 3 minutes. Accelerate Urbana path to zero carbon footprint. I don't remember who did that. Oh,
I
Eric.
did that, yeah. So, yeah, I think that's pretty self-explanatory.
Okay.
Perhaps it could be merged with Jared's priority item on electric vehicles. The only thing I would add to this is if this is at some economic cost, we should really seek to partner with especially City of Champaign, because anything that we do that costs us money, we have to try to keep a level playing field.
I can't remember which one of you said it, but one of you said we need to really look for partners in anything we do.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who that was, but I think that's something that's going to go without saying.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's understood is probably a better way to say it.
You could probably take 6 out, and we'll just consider that a part of
Okay.
Eric's larger goal.
I will include it in anything I say about the larger goal.
Review and retool campus to downtown. Is that the path thing that we talked about that we've already addressed? Campus to downtown? Mary Alice?
There's a campus to downtown plan. There's a whole vision plan. So it's not just the multi-path.
Okay, gotcha.
Got it.
Okay. Create multi-use path. That's the one that is combined, right? Yes. Make Southeast Urbana economic priority, Philo Road business. Oh, Dean.
You know, I think Southeast Urbana, specifically the Philo Road area, has a ton of potential. We also have some problems down there that keep businesses away. We could attack it by trying to clean up the crime problems, or we could attack it by trying to economically develop it, which I think would be the stronger, better approach.
Okay. Completion of Urbana main gateway corridors. Okay, sorry, Dennis.
Yeah, that was mine. Well, okay, we've had beautification plans for Cunningham and Lincoln Avenue, and for various reasons, they're just hard to complete, but we should continue to try because these are significant entry points into the community.
Okay, we've got a minute. What I'm thinking is we're getting really close. Boneyard Founders Park.
Yeah, that's just the next phase of the Boneyard project that would have gone from Main Street up to connect to the existing project, and I think just need to work harder on getting grant funding to help make it happen.
Okay. And then we've got equity in traffic stops.
Been a lot of work around that. I think we're going in the right direction, so I don't think there's any further discussion necessary.
Work with other governments to reduce disparate economic impact of fines on lower income people and including court costs.
Eric.
Yes. So this is, this is something we have to, I think, more be a voice for than we can control. But these fines and court costs are largely controlled by county and state, and I think we really need to work with those governments to because it is low-income people in our community who are being impacted.
Okay, I'm going to do a jump here. You've got these final 4. Does anybody feel they need to advocate for any of these 4? They aren't well enough known. Otherwise, if not, I'm just going to assign numbers to them, and then I'm going to give you your cards. Is that okay?
Bill, I was wondering if it would be more effective, perhaps, to have these printed out and do the voting or the card thing at our next session, or in between time, because it's hard to read all these and to.
Yeah.
This is a mess, a little bit.
That's a very good suggestion. I like that suggestion, actually.
Do you need to assign numbers to that?
Oh, gosh, thank you.
Bill, I can work with you to get this distributed to council and get the answers
Okay.
back to you.
Okay. Why don't we do that? Is that okay? So you're going to wait until you hear from me later this week. And I will provide, that's a great suggestion, Dennis. I was trying to figure out how to make it happen. I'll provide the list. I'll work with, as long as the council is okay with it, I'll work with Charles. And we'll get it out to you. And I'll provide how I'd like you to think about assigning the priorities, okay?
When do we
Thanks.
meet next?
We
with
meet
you?
on February 19th at 5:30.
2 weeks.
Yep, 2 weeks. Okay, great, thank you. We got close. About 10 more minutes, and I'm glad you stopped us.
Need to adjourn. Mayor, we need to adjourn the meeting.
Yeah.
This meeting is adjourned.